Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm your host, CK. All right. So, today we are discussing about a subject which is very interesting. It is about the human fertility. People say that the humans started migrating from Africa maybe 100,000 years back, maybe 200,000 years back. We don't know for sure. However, after that point, we have been migrating and we have been multiplying, and our strength has been going from few hundred thousand to 8 billion people today. And so it has been increasing, but then suddenly there is a conversation by a lot of politicians today. They are talking about that we need to produce more, because for last 50 years, these very politicians have been saying that we need to basically control the population bomb. They actually compared this as a population bomb, that we have grown so much that we are disrupting every part of the ecosystem. We are killing animals, we are actually rampaging the forest, we are growing our crop, and therefore, there is as much as space on earth which can support only 7 to 8 billion people. So we have already reached the peak. But then suddenly, the politicians started saying that, look, let's grow further, let's increase our population, let each family have 3 to 4 children. So that made me think, why we are suddenly talking about these things. And that's where I just wanted to open have a discussion with you, a dialogue about why I feel that the politicians are talking about increasing population once again. All right, so let's look at point wise point, whatever I think in a point wise manner. Some of the politicians are now saying that we must increase the population. We must have at least 4 children in our household. Now, if we increase with that level, the population may very soon touch 10 billion. So, can Earth support it? But before that, why these politicians making this statement? And from the political standpoint, it looks like that these politicians looks like right winger, because they are talking about religion. They are saying, for example, let me quote some names. Trump said that the first executive order that he is going to pass as soon as he assume office, which is like this week, he is going to basically abolish the abolish the abortion, so which is a cause of concern for many people, especially women, because when the abortions are not there, how they can lead the normal life which they are used to for last 100 years. All right, so Trump is saying that he is going to do that because he is now equating that to a murder, right? Obviously, his end thought is that you should have more children. Similarly, in India, which is also a large democracy, there are right-wing politicians who are saying that we must increase our strength. We must increase our strength. So suddenly, for last 50 years in India also, there was a slogan that we must have only 2 children. But in 2024, the politicians started making this comment that we must actually have more than 4 children. And so there must be something happening here. Now, if you look at China, in 1976, they said we will have only one child. All right, and in India, 2 children policy. In US, large democracy, large population, there was no rule like that, but there were rampant abortions, etc. So what is happening today? Why these politicians, on the surface of it, it looks like that they are sort of right winger, and they are coming from the religious background, which some of the religions don't allow abortions, and they think that the children are the God gift, and that therefore when the politicians are making such statement, it looks like that it is coming from the right winger politician. But then these statement coming back to back within a span of like 2 to 3 weeks, and these large politicians are talking about it. And even in China, they lifted their single child policy, and even a large populous country like China, they want to produce more humans. So that made me think, and what was going on here. And then I analyze, and something which is very alarming, I found out, I stumbled upon during my research, and which is exactly what I want to present in front of you. So political view, we understand it looks like that it is coming from a ultra right wing side, but then we have to also give them credit of, these politicians are making some sense. They are not making a senseless statement, simply because politicians actually survive on the perception. And if you make a senseless statement, their perception actually goes down. So they don't want to do that. They want to be in the sensible zone, and therefore there must be something sensible about increasing the human population. So let's understand this one by one. There has been a constant decline in fertility rate, since 1960 onwards. So even though the population is increasing, human population has been going up, but there has been a fertility decline. What is fertility? Fertility is the number of children a human can produce over the lifetime, right? So there are rates. Believe it or not, the government is actually making a note of all these things, and there are rates for each country. And so far, the lowest fertility rate has been recorded especially in 2024, in South Korea. And Japan is not very far off from that, which is 0.067%. That means a couple can have 0.067% of a child. They have managed to produce half the child, and that is their fertility is so low. Now in places like Japan, it is 0.69%. That means their population is going to fail in next 50 years. Their population is going to suffer big time, and it's going to reduce big time. As we proceed towards future, more and more elderlies will be available in those countries. Now, if you look at the rise, let's go back in history. After the Second World War, the soldiers returned back, and the entire country, entire world, they wanted to rebuild their nation. And therefore, there was a fresh, fresh input of the ideas, input of funding. They wanted to rebuild their country, and therefore, for the very first time, the emphasis on advertising, emphasis on family values were the highest in 60s and 70s. Where even if you look at old advertising, they were all, having gala time. If you look at the dining table, the husband, wife, along with 4 to 5 children sitting, it was a very normal thing. So it was conveyed that you actually live a good life, good quality life with your family, and have multiple children. And all that changed suddenly in the 70s, where large nations like China, India, they adapted a family planning policies, and the women freedom empowerment came in a big way in the West. So that gave rise to abortions and things like that. So from that point, the fertility has been reducing. And let me tell you that from 1950 to 60, when there were more emphasis on the family values, the parents were encouraged to produce more babies. That was the golden era of capitalism. Let's understand capitalism. We talk about the Americas and the West, which are capitalist country. Now, even in China, which is although communist, but they have actually embraced capitalism for last 30 years. So, China, India, everybody is capitalist. They want to, make more money, make higher production, sell more goods. So, the success of capitalism lies only in if there are more people to buy. So if you are producing things and there are no sales happening, the capitalism is going to go down. This is exactly what is going on. So last 60, 70 years, the world has actually seen tremendous progress. There are so much development happening all over the place, and therefore capitalism has been increasing. That means more progress, more money, more production, more people who can buy, etc. But if there is a fertility decline, then capitalism is going to go down the drain, because the capitalism will not be able to sustain the growth pattern. If there are not many people to buy your produce goods, then who will actually fund your business? So reduction in fertility rate is very, very alarming, because it is going to spoil the way we actually live today. All right, and the growth patterns will be completely disrupted. So this is what is happening, and this is why all these politicians suddenly sprung up, and they started saying that, hey, increase your numbers, increase the population. They are not coming. I mean, obviously, these politicians are making political statements because they are politicians, but then they are not coming out of the blue. There is some basis behind these politicians making such absurd looking statement today, but they are very meaningful, statistically supported, and this is actually for the good of the human civilization. Okay, so this is what is happening, and there has been an alarming decline in fertility since 1970. Why there has been an alarming decline in the fertility rate? Obviously, there is a huge urbanization. There are great development, and because of that, because of the urbanization, the humans are moving from villages, from rural areas to urban areas, and the cost of living in urban area is increasing. And because of that, the people will have to work overtime. When they are working overtime, they are basically making their ends meet. They are living in smaller apartments by spending more and more money, and in order to support this lifestyle, they will have to basically maybe sometimes take two jobs, more than one jobs, and the jobs are not paying as much as they used to pay. So they are getting into a vicious circle. Let's understand this fertility crisis in much more detail. You see, the fertility is reduction is basically happened after the capitalism, and because of to support the capitalist society, there was the way of life, more production, less wages, and people will have to move towards the cities where the cost of living is higher, and therefore the people got entangled in the vicious circle where they have to keep working, and they will not have time to raise a family because they are working more and more, and they are getting less wages. So this started basically creeping into our society everywhere. We take the name of any country, whether European country or US, Brazil, India, China, everywhere. And hi Rupinder Singh is saying bad food, unhealthy habit also impacting this. Absolutely, Rupinder, thank you so much for your very valuable comment. Absolutely a great comment. So the way we live our life has changed because of capitalism. The family value started going down, and people are working more, and they don't have time to raise the family, and that actually triggered the fertility decline. Even though a lot of scientists were talking about that the earth cannot support more than 7 billion people, however, we are already 8, and very soon will become 10 billion. But the scientists who actually came out with the statistics way back in 80s and 90s, they did not account for more advanced production methods and also more efficient production methods, which will ensure that even if we are 12 billion, we will still survive till 2021. But then if our population decline, then none of these things will happen. So therefore, this is very, very important aspect. The development and urbanization actually created a side effect. I mean, one way is that lot of these countries who were actually capitalist in nature, they became the developed countries and first world nations. But then they triggered the fertility. So it's like causing your own doom by developing faster, by embracing capitalism, and because of that, in next 50 to 100 years, you will basically, your population will fail, and because of the infertility, and then you will become poor. So this is exactly what is going on, and that is why the politicians of today are making this statement, even though their statement may look like a political statement, but then there is a lot of basis around it. All right, let's move to the next point, and that is about the religion. So let's look at the religious aspect of it. The religion tells you about how do you raise family, the ways of doing things. Not talking about any specific religion, all religions are the same. All religions tell you how you should live your life and how you should behave as a family man or a woman. How, as a parent, both men and women, when they join together, how they should behave with their children. What are the do's and don'ts, etc. You take any religion, they talk about that. And because of the urbanization, because of the very high increase of urbanization, people moving towards cities, etc., they didn't have time to basically practice the religion, and therefore that gave rise to nuclear families. And when we talk about nuclear families, that means in 60s, 80s, 90s, it was husband and wife living together. And especially in a country like India, where there were joint families, that means multiple brothers with their family used to live together. However, all that changed. First it changed in the west, then it started changing in the east, where the whole change in scenario gave rise to the nuclear family. And now what is happening today is that even nuclear families are breaking apart. We keep hearing about children not taking care of their parents, etc., especially in eastern countries like India and China. This is all the side effect of people losing their value system, and also do not have time to basically practice the usual social practice of making friends, going out, dating, for example, finding their partners. None of those things are happening today because people don't have time. They have to live in small apartments by paying through their noses. So this is a trend everywhere. Now, if you look at very badly affected countries like Korea and China, there is something called immigration. So they may actually solve their immediate problem by allowing people to immigrate into these countries. However, this will not solve the problem. There will be a big issue around it. Therefore, let's move to the point, which is looking at the religious aspect of it. Now let's look at the impact of social media. So social media is also causing a lot of changes to the way we live, simply because now when people were not, especially young people, they were not going out into the field for dating, etc. Then they will not be able to successfully find a partner. But now all that activity has been replaced by social media. So the expression using which they will like to basically mix around and all that is now taken over by the reel watching and Instagram and Facebook. So whatever bandwidth they have after they have spent their time and they have gone through their work regime and also paid their bills, whatever small time they have for socializing is now being taken over by social media. So social media is adding the fuel to the fire and causing this infertility to happen. Now it does not mean that these are only one factor involved. There are several factors. I've actually mentioned only 4 of them, and our viewer Rupinder Singh, who joined us from LinkedIn, also mentioned one of the main item, that is the eating habits, and that is also cause of the concern, but that is related to the medical medical aspect. But the fact is that more and more people are now eating the junk food or fast food, and that does not have too much nutrient in the food. Therefore, their ability to cope up with different kind of situations and different kinds of hormone being generated in the body is also reducing. And therefore, people are generally happy looking at social media. They're generally happy living in their apartment. They're generally happy sleeping, or in case they want to do something, they will like to just play games, go outside instead of going out. All right, play games, computer game, not playing cricket or hockey or things like that. So these are some of the things which are affecting, and because of this, the human fertility rates are going down, and which is why the politicians are asking us to have more than 2 children, at least 3 to 4 children in a country like India. And it has nothing to do with right winger, left winger, or center, center left, etc. It is basically very practical that all uh, you know, the politicians are asking, all the main politicians globally, to have more children. All right. And Rupinder has also made a statement that because of these fertility challenges, most of the people have to shun, or basically they are not, their natural methods are not working. Therefore, there are so many IVF clinics which are helping parents to grow babies. All right. So very important point, Rupinder. All right. Let's move to the next point, which is the last point on our list today, and that is about the hope. Now, there is very little hope, in my opinion, because we are not changing the way we are, right? We are still continuing on the social media path. We are consuming social media very heavily. We are getting, glued to the video games. There are gamification. A lot of companies are talking about that. The art of selling is basically include gamification in your product offerings. So we are actually enhancing on that path, and we are increasing urbanization. That means more and more. I mean, if you look at South Korea, it's a small country, but even in a small country like South Korea, there are about 160 to 170 cities. Half of those cities have become ghost towns because in a small country like South Korea, there is only one big city called Seoul. So everybody is moving from their small cities to Seoul, and the lifestyle of Seoul is becoming very, very expensive because there is a lot of pressure on a city to stay afloat. And even though they are developing so rapidly, their suicide rates are also going very high. And it looks like, if you look at the media itself, the Korean media, it looks like that they are so happy, they are so young, but the reality is totally different. Look at Japan. So even if they open their gates for immigration, the problem is not going to be solved immediately. Whatever is happening today in those countries will start showing by 2050, and the population decline will be very, very severe in those countries. And if this continues, the infertility rate continues, then the human population might fail in 2100. That means 70 to 80 years from now, the population might fail. So this is a very dire situation. This is something which is very, very important, and therefore this is something that we must look at. Don't look at the statements made by politicians in isolation. Because politicians, being politicians, they will make statements which suits their ideology. However, don't look at that. Analyze little bit and understand that what is going on, why these politicians are making such statement, and can we change our lifestyle? Can we, have normal family values? Can we start learning from the religion? I'm not saying that you have to be very religious, but can we start getting the best practice from the religion so that we can, start building a good family? How can we stay away from social media? I'm not saying that you should get out of social media, but I'm saying that how much time you must spend on a social media game, how much time you would spend on with your family. Would you actually watch TV all the time? Would you spend time and with your family and grow more cohesive? So all of these things we need to think about. Otherwise, as per the scientists, as per some of the hidden points, the 2100 is the year of reckoning, where the human population might fail. And if that happens, then the capitalism and everything will go down the drain. There will be less production, not many hands to work in the factories, not many hands to buy your production. All of these things will spiral down into something which we do not want to see. So friends, this is something I wanted to share with you, and I wanted to have a discussion, open discussion with you today. And thank you, Rupinder, for joining me live and adding your comments. So if you have any other thought, any other comments, feel free to send it across and I will have a discussion or probably invite you live again in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me live and I will catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.